welcome to the Indigenous Entrepreneurs Podcast. Today I have Alyssa Begay with me, and she is a realtor. She owns her own realty company. She also works with West, and then she does some other work with missing and murdered Indigenous peoples. And so I'm really excited to have her on here to talk about all her different entrepreneurial pursuits and things that she has going. So thanks for being with me, Alyssa. If you could just introduce yourself and then we'll get started from there.
For sure. Yá'át'ééh also. Do diné. Alyssa Begay yinishyé, hashtł'ishnii, bashishchiin. Tábaahá, dashicheii, dashinalí. Excuse me, MittenRock, naashá. Tóta de Auto San Juan County Nish. So I am Salt Clan, born from Mud Clan. My grandfather is nearby Running Water. My paternal grandfather is Towering House. So I am from the MittenRock area and work primarily in New Mexico or Farmington, but San Juan County. I sell real estate all throughout New Mexico, but I can help you wherever. My network is massive. Um, a little bit about myself. It's always such a mouthful to go through what I do, but it's all very important. So I am a business owner with my company, Bluehorse Realty NM. Bluehorse is the name of my late grandpa, Albert Bluehorse. He was just the ultimate man's man. He farmed, he taught all the grandkids their own song. Just a very very good man, and he was a classic man. So back in the day of getting up early, running eastward, and all those traditional teachings. So I really wanted my company to embody the community, and that was something that was always really important to my grandparents. My grandma is still alive and kicking, and it's like a whole it's a journey when I go anywhere with my grandparents. They all stop and talk to people for like 20 plus minutes. So they're loved by the community and they love the community. And that's what I wanted to bring into my business of creating connection and long lasting relationships. So that's Blue Horse. I also am a consultant with the Farmington Women's Business Center. I am a trainer slash consultant. And what I do is I tag along to trainings where we go into communities that are either in the San Juan County area or Navajo Nation, and we offer business trainings on like social media marketing, marketing in general, or just financials. And it seems like remedial for a lot of business owners, but in all honesty, the areas that we're going into don't have the best internet service or like the best meeting places. So a lot of times we're meeting in chapter houses or community spaces that are normally utilized for things other than business training. So let's see, there's that. I'm a community advocate also. So I got into advocacy really through the families. I realized a lot of families were voicing to the general public and to agencies about their loved ones open case. So just the disclosure, nobody likes this day and age cold case is not what we like to hear. Now it's open. So a lot of folks with open cases weren't getting answers or movement on their case. And it frustrated me. So I really wanted to amplify their voices. So I spent 21 to 22 trying to build a platform for families. 22 to 23 was going and supporting and helping to coordinate events and help marketing these events and also empowering the families along the way. And now 24 and 25, I've adjusted my focus to start helping with the Four Corners Canine Search and Rescue. So I'm training to be a canine handler for this search and rescue team that goes on and off reservations to help families look for their missing loved one. So since I've been on probably more than 15 searches. I started very, very like minimally because I wasn't sure where I wanted to fit in. I just knew my skills are all on the computer and with marketing because I'm a realtor. So I was thinking with this Four Corners Canine Search and Rescue, I wanted to help find funds for them and try to become a grant writer. And the pups in they stole my heart, honestly, and the work that is involved is hard work, and I don't see a lot of people doing it. So that's what pushed me to go from behind the computer to outside helping my my community. And Bernadine Bial is the founder. She's a Navajo woman, and it's just like a woman and a native woman to do something so huge and not get support. I didn't want that for her. I wanted to support her, and I really love empowering people. So I lent my support to her, and in turn, she's training me to be a canine handler for her team. But now I am a certified team member. There's a whole process to it. Let's see. Aside from that, I'm on the Department of Justice Task Force for Missing Murdered Indigenous People for the state of New Mexico. And yeah, and aside from that, oh, I'm a commissioner for the city of Farmington's community relations. So as you can tell, like it's not really like for time's sake, it's not in the best interest for me to go through all of that. So I just say I'm a business owner and community advocate. And as people get to know me, they see that my mouthful is actually more than just one thing. And I honestly, I feel like it's a voyeuristic mindset to not brag about yourself or like sing your own accolades, if that makes sense, because history will carry your legacy for you. And if that legacy is built being around selfish, is it truly a legacy? And that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what Bluehorse is. So that's me.
You're like such a dynamic and busy person, it seems like, which is, I mean, that's what an entrepreneur essentially is. Um, can you share with me, how did you go into entrepreneurship and starting your own business? Was it something that you always dreamed about? Was it something that just kind of happened? Like, how did that all play out for you?
Oh gosh. Um, so when I made the decision to start my business, I was a construction worker and dealing with hazardous materials, so like asbestos, mold, lead. And our job was to go and take it out and make it to where it was livable and professionally taken. So I made my decision to create a business when I realized the crew that I was working with was at least 45 men and maybe 3 women. And I was supervising all of these people to, you know, in very intricate schedules. And I wasn't the person who gave myself that job. My supervisor couldn't be there to help. So he gave me this responsibility and was like, they'll you'll be okay. And in reality, he kind of pushed me. He did the uncle thing. He pushed me into the pool and I swam. And I gained so much confidence in that time. And then COVID happened and all construction stopped. As you know, the res shut down, and that's where majority of our business was. So the things that we were allowed to do would require us to go to like southern New Mexico or places that the restrictions weren't so high. So the same uncle who pushed me into the pool, I told him I want to do real estate, and I think I'll do really good because all of my family are in trades and we can flip houses and build wealth together. And he was like, yeah, when that happens, give me a call. I can help you. And just kind of teasing me. And I don't think he thought I was going to take it seriously. So I went and bought my books. I used my daddy Nez money and got my Kaplan started, which was real estate school. So on my way to hazardous removal jobs, in my steel toes, no eyebrows, I was studying for my real estate exam. And um, that's really what was it was if I can supervise 50 plus people to finish hazardous jobs, and like these aren't just Joe Schmoes. They had to go through training to get that type of certification. So it was a lot of communication, responsibility, relationship building, and treating people like with respect. And that was something that was uncommon in the construction field and on Navajo Nation. So um, I fell into business ownership, and I really just I saw the company that I was working for was run by family, and I saw a legacy, and I saw a ceiling for me because I wasn't part of that family. And so I decided to create my own and base it on Bluehorse, the name, and my niche would be community and becoming a pillar. And since 2021, it's been 4 years now, the real tradition number. I feel like when I look back, I've done those things and I'm continuing to build my community.
That's awesome. So, did you start out as like a realtor working for another organization and then you eventually decided to start your own, or did you just kind of start your own right off the bat?
I did not start my own, so I joined a team right off the bat. Before I even became licensed, I was looking through teams in New Mexico. I just did a real simple search, top teams in New Mexico, and there was 5 of them. There were 2 of them that were here in Farmington. I called and I didn't feel an instant connection. So the other 3, one of them ended up calling me for an interview. I really was doing some research into the value system that each team had. And culture is such a sexy word in the entrepreneurial like scape. So before then, right, as you're becoming an entrepreneur, you're like, culture, I'm native. I know all about that. But in reality, going into the Western world and seeing what they think is culture, I really wanted to see hard work and values. And I found it in the team that I'm still with. They still have it, all of that in a bag of chips. It reminds me sometimes of being in like a traditional Navajo setting. In that, like, there's just hardcore like discipline. If you want to be on this team, like we have standards, and if you can't meet it, just do whatever your heart desires. And I like that. I like the hardcore competition, not really competition with anybody else, but with yourself and what you can accomplish in a day. And, it's all mindset. So the organization I'm with is Rock Real Estate Partners. And I was sold from the get-go because of their podcast, and it was called Battle Tested Business Podcast. And a lot of like things were coming out of there, like David Goggins quotes. That's where I learned about David Goggins. Um, just a lot of people that they were interviewing were people I was researching anyway. So, uh, the one thing I loved about this team is they knew I was out here in Farmington, they're in Albuquerque. This is during COVID times where the brick and mortar locations were still a thing, and being a at-home realtor wasn't really like appealing. So I was having a hard time with that because I felt like I wasn't legit because I didn't have an office. But the team was like, what does it matter? Like, you'll be able to do that and more, and you can also market yourself as whatever you want. And that's when I thought, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity right now to put Bluehorse on something that I know is part of something bigger. And to this day, like I said, they have a lot of values that mirror diné values, like um, ice baths were something that were a topic of our team discussion one time. And I was like, yeah, as a kid and every winter we're taking ice baths. Um, but these guys were like, okay, well, that's great. Can you do it every day for 5 minutes? And the thought process behind that was your brain doesn't get to tell you when it wants to work. You tell your brain when it's ready to work. Oh my God, what? Like that kind of programming for your brain was so like it's to me to this day, I still love it. And that's why I'm still with this organization, is because they're sharpening iron with iron all the time.
That's awesome. How has like that transition been, switching to being like an entrepreneur, running your own thing? How has it impacted your life, and how do you feel like what you're doing, um, is impacting your community?
Hmm. Nice. That was a good one. Um, I think, oh gosh, I know I am a completely different person from when I started my business to who I am today. Before I had my business, I was an employee. I couldn't wait till Friday, and I just like was planning maybe one vacation, maybe if I could. And I wasn't really thinking outside of myself as an employee. But with that, like I knew when my days off were. At 5, I clocked out, and I didn't really worry about anything when it came to the company, as long as I was getting paid. But ah, it was like being asleep. There's a term that the kids started using recently, right? Woke. And in in Native American studies, like that's what I got my degree in from UNM. And one of the topics, or I remember a line from a book of like pulling back the wool from your eyes and seeing things differently. And way back when I went to school and got my degree, I was wide awake and I was ready to take on the world, but I experienced a trauma that affected me to where I didn't see the value in being alive, and I didn't want to, I guess, love myself because of the trauma that I had experienced. And it was in my last year of college, I had gotten raped, and I had a great like grade point average. And that year, my final semester is when that happened, right before my final semester started. So my grade slipped. I didn't have my scholarship, and I had to take care of that with student loans. And I thought, like, I can't, if I just make it past graduation, then it won't be like I did this for nothing. Maybe I can off myself then. And I ended up graduating magna cum laude, which was like a 3.05. So it wasn't the best, but it was whatever I could do at that moment. And afterward, I didn't really see like outside myself. I just saw like straight pain, and just wishing for anything but being here. So I went through that for about 8 years, and it was a really hard downward spiral. And by the time I got out of it, I was um, I was an employee, and I thought, man, I got a salary now. I'm doing good for me. And that was all I thought. Like, now I just need to become, I don't know, a wife and a mom, and then American story complete. But um, I ended up meeting somebody who, I don't want to say they believed in me, but like yeah, my person, my partner, he really loved the idea, and I think at that time he just loved everything I was saying. So he was like, "Oh my God, a business sounds amazing. You're so amazing." And like breathing life into me. And at this time, I was going to therapy and doing all the steps to address my pain. And at this time, also, I had decided to stop drinking. So it was like a whole fresh breath of light. And now I was feeling things. Um, and for 8 years, I had tried so hard to suppress it. So it was, of course, up and downs of like, this is scary, and like I'm doing all these things, but then I adjusted to it. So going and transitioning into business, it is scary, but having gone through all of my trauma and getting myself out of it, starting a business wasn't as hard. Just because it was like, I did it before, I can do it again. But I made the decision to start taking back my life and making it mine officially, I think, in 2022, like a year after, no, a mid-year that I started my business. I was like, thank goodness I didn't kill myself. Thank goodness I'm here. And it was one of those mornings like I just woke up and I looked outside and everything was brighter. I was running down the strip in Vegas for a real estate conference. They blocked off all the streets for the strip, and that was a 5K race. And I remember like everything was so bright and beautiful on my way, and people were passed out on the side, and I was just like, dang, that sucks. I'm glad I'm not there anymore, but you know, so everything, like I said, was very intense color wise, but the smell wise was even worse. So I'm running down Vegas and everything was just starting to come to my nose. And, I'm trying to run after not ever running, but you couldn't pass this up. And some random realtors like, don't stop, keep going, keep going. And I'll pause there, but like there's times I think universe has sent people into my life to intervene and let me know like don't give up, keep going, keep going. And this was one of those people, and he and I just ran the rest of the race together, and high-fived, didn't see him again, but we are still in touch on Facebook and always like pumping each other up. So it was a long journey to become an entrepreneur, um, just with the mindset, because I started on building my mindset before I started my business. So yeah, it was quite a bit to get here, but like now I can't even, I look back and I think, oh gosh, I can't believe that was me, because now I wake up grateful every day. I actually in my team meetings, we talk about what we're grateful for. And that is also something that you hear entrepreneurs talk about a lot, is gratitude, and it'll shift your perspective on the way you see your life. And yeah,
Wow, that is a intense but also really beautiful story. And I'm glad you're here and I'm glad you're doing what I think it seems like you've been called to do. Would you say that that's what you're doing now?
yeah, yeah. I think, um, wow, that was a perfect segue into how I got started with Wes. So I started my business, and um, I was a little scared because, yes, I'm with this tip of the sword company that will extract the best out of me, but on the back end as a business, like I don't want to fail like everybody else probably has in my community. And this is before I really knew people. So I just didn't want to fail. And I didn't want to be like taking shortcuts or doing things improperly. And it's really hard because until you start establishing your network, you're finding yourself around crabs. And unfortunately, that's just the type of community, society we live in. I wouldn't even say it's specific to Native Americans because it's everywhere. The crab mindset of pulling one another down. And so I would ask people, how do you start a business? How did you become a realtor? And nobody would tell me. So I told myself that if anybody ever asked me how to do something, I'm never going to be like that. And when I started asking around, um, I called some carpenter guy, and I asked him like, hey, I was just curious, how did you start your business? And he was like, oh, you go up to the college and they give you a big stack of paperwork and you fill it out, you have your business. I was like, oh, I can do that. So I went up to the college and I asked them where that stack of papers was. And they said, West probably can tell you because they're a women owned business and you're trying to get started. And West, I was like, well, where's that at? Because I saw when I walked in this big like SBA everywhere. And they're like, oh, West is down that hallway. And I'm like, what? Where? So they sent me down to West, and I was just like, but what about all this cool stuff over here? They're like, West. So when I got to West, I talked to Dawn and Dawn Faka, told her what I was doing, let her know that I didn't want to fail. And I heard there was big stack of papers here. When can I get it? And I'll pay for it. And she's like, well, you don't pay for nothing here. And we serve businesses at no cost. And we started because a woman had been trying to close on her house. And back in the 70s, you couldn't get credit without a man. And she was a divorced woman, and her son had just turned 18. So her son is the reason why this woman closed on her house, and she founded West. So I thought, man, that's a pretty gritty lady. Like, I like that. And where's the stack of papers? And Don was like, just get it out of your head. There's no stack of papers. Like, there's a couple options we can do. But it sounds like you're wanting to get your business plan started. And um, on the realtor side, my team had already had me going according to like what a realtor business plan should look like. And Don was like, I think you need to take yourself out of that and kind of plug yourself into just a general business at first. So I was like a little discouraged because that essentially meant I have to do two plans. But I thought to myself, if you do two times the work, you'll be two times better. So I did that. And I reflect on both plans quarterly now pretty often. Um, so West really helped me to be able to ask questions when I needed help about little things like, what is a legal structure? Like, what does that even mean? And, those type of questions were really scary as a first time entrepreneur getting exposed to things like that. And you hear legal, you're just like, your spidey senses are tingling. And West, I felt like was down to earth, first of all. Dawn has um, she has her degree, but it's on the ground behind a bunch of papers. And I had asked her about what that was doing on the ground, and she was just like, "Oh, that doesn't really mean as much as the work that we're doing in our community." And she has a great story when you talk to her about it. So I like that. I like that this woman wasn't putting me as a just brand new business owner on any type of tier. And this, to be frank, this white woman wasn't putting me down as an indigenous woman. She saw that I had a dream and wanted to support me. So right there, I was like, I'm sold. I really like this organization. And after about a year of my business being West, I was asked by West to, I'm sorry, my business being in going, West asked me to become a consultant for them and trainer because I had told them one of my check-ins that I was helping a couple other people and my partner to start their business. And they were like, "What are you doing that for free?" I'm like, "Yeah." And they offered me a position there. So I really enjoy the concept of helping new business owners because a lot of people are coming from places where they don't want to work anymore or they can't work because either they have a growing family or maybe they got into trouble or maybe they went through trauma like I did. And the last thing I would want them to do is get, told to go down the corner, down this big long hallway and away from all the cool glitter and sparkles. I didn't want that for them. I thought if you're gonna go down the hallway, that hallway walk is gonna be worth the services that you're getting. And with Navajo Nation, we become so accustomed to the stereotypical IHS personalities when it comes to customer service. So I didn't want that for my clients. And I work as much as I can to meet them where they are, but also try to empower my clients in West. And then also, you had asked, do I feel like the universe kind of just pushed me in this direction? Yes, because um, I started working with families again and promoting their messaging. of their relative being missing or having been murdered or looking for justice. So um, the first couple families I approached, I felt very comfortable talking to them because we had marched together, we had worked together. So I asked them like, "Can I just have your permission to be frank?" And these ladies at this time were calling, we're sisters at this point. So I said, "I understand what you're going through, and this is a hard subject to talk about. Everybody else has an attention span of like 30 seconds, 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So everything that you need to say, if you can say it in 2 minutes, you'll always be heard because they'll hear you. Not only that, if you can incorporate a feeling into it, if you can make them feel something, they'll always remember your story. And then if you can start using hashtags and locations. And so I was teaching families about search engine optimization, basically skills I use for advertising my business and endeavors, but flipping that and using that for their advocacy. And I had pitched the idea to West of, can I use this opportunity to give these families these skills? And it wouldn't just be limited to their advocacy because a lot of these families have events that they have to travel to. So sometimes they're fundraising with stickers or food sales, or they learned a skill like beading or screen printing t-shirts. They're inadvertently becoming a business. So while I'm kind of marinating in there and helping them advocacy wise, I'm also trying to ask, like, do you think you would want to pursue a business with what you're doing right now? Sometimes it's yes, sometimes it's no. I don't push, just like every other client, I don't push too hard, but I present it as it's here. And so some of our families come to the events that West host, like market spaces where they can sell their product at no cost. And all the families are always welcome to attend any of the classes. So I'll do like Canva 101 to 10 or 301 classes. And those will be on like using QR codes. And one of my families actually has a business card that they have a QR code, and the QR code is linked to a video of them telling their story. So that, that gives me so much pride in knowing that I empowered this family to be able to utilize that information. And knowing these families, they're going to go and give that same knowledge to somebody without holding on to it, without being stingy, because they know that family needs that. Um, so I transitioned to the canine handler, and Bernadine Bial sees a lot of what I'm doing. We had a conversation early on, and I told her all the things I wanted to do. And full circle moment when she broke her leg sometime in October, and I saw that nobody was helping her, so I stepped up to help her. And I've also been helping her in attending meetings on behalf of her organization that have to do with like missing murder, diné relative task force, just stakeholder type meetings. So I guess where I'm going with all of this is the segments that I'm working in my business, West, and the advocacy component, because I'm so community focused, they're all weaving together in this like braid of foundational empowerment, but also community building. And it's not just me being the middleman. I'm like pushing resources as much as I can to one another so that I'm not the middleman. But I feel like where I am now, I'm very happy with, and I'm what I prayed for, and I think I'm what my grandparents prayed for.
That's beautiful. That's awesome. It's kind of like the same concept that we have here at UNM Rainforest Innovations regarding just like entrepreneurial ecosystem building, like building that space where like all the different components of like innovation and entrepreneurship, whether it's like the businesses, the technologists, the venture capitalists, like the funders, the resource providers can all kind of come together in this like rainforest. That's pretty much what it sounds like you're doing for your own community is kind of, like you said, braiding those things together so that they work cohesively, which is really awesome. Um, how do you see that mindset benefiting your community, but also like how could other entrepreneurs or like resource providers or just the state of New Mexico be better at creating those types of communities or support networks for entrepreneurs, specifically Indigenous entrepreneurs like yourself?
I read this in well, I heard this question being asked in another one of your episodes, and I told myself, be ready for it. And now it's like blank. But I think that I took a path when I first started my business. The team lead, he said, if you'll find your niche if you see what you're passionate about and um, touch and go. He said, don't get stuck there because you'll get stuck there. And I got stuck there as far as being community focused. And I started my career at the same time as a couple different agents on my team, and they've exceeded me by miles. And I'm so happy for them because they're growing in ways of where they're going and helping others too. So I feel like I just grew horizontally, and my path is in my community. And this is something, I think as entrepreneurs, we face all the time of like, if I just focused on myself and me, I would be so rich and happy, and nobody else could tell me what to do. Whereas when you start following your passion and joining organizations and groups, nonprofits especially, you start realizing like, man, people don't realize the work that I do, and they treat me and my business as, just customer service. And so sometimes I feel like the work that I'm doing in my community is taking the focus away from my goals that I could meet personally. But this year, I decided to build my community goals into my business goals. And I something about doing that, seeing my community through my business is helping me to make it's not as hard to do the things that I wouldn't normally be happy with doing, like filing my receipts. I'm like, why can't I could be doing something so much cooler. But as far as what the community at large could do for helping entrepreneurs, or what advice I have to entrepreneurs is that there's a statistic out there that after 3 years, 30% of entrepreneurs will continue being on track. Everybody else goes back to work or everybody else does something else. I would say be aware of that statistic and try your best to not be part of it. Um, Always be learning, continuously doing podcasts or videos, even on YouTube or anything learning wise. I have like 6 books I'm cycling through, and they're all on different subjects, but that's always what I've done is cycled through multiple books. Um, the state of New Mexico has has the ability to give funding to organizations like UNM Rainforest, like West, um, to help develop entrepreneurs, because what we do is actually go out into the communities, and we're not just kind of stagnant and waiting for people to come to us. And that's what I like about our organization. And I love that there's nonprofits like ours that are going into communities that have uh, brown people that have brown people in positions where they're actually teaching and leadership. Zach, who's one of your members, is somebody I met while I was working in a charter school. And we had contracted with Zach to talk about his farm and to see him grow to who he is now, that was magical. And I think if the state of New Mexico could start investing in communities like Shiprock, Gutty, Dulce, MittenRock, there's a lot of magic that could happen. And as far as our own Navajo Nation, our maybe our own tribal entities could support entrepreneurs a little bit more by reaching out to nonprofits who already have it established. A lot of times, I think tribal programs try to start programs and it doesn't come to fruition because there's no I don't know. They're just reinventing something that's already been created, and it's just for the sole purpose of putting your name on it, saying, I created this program. And that right there is a colonized mindset. And I think that's something as an entrepreneur to keep in mind is you have to decolonize your mind in order to be an entrepreneur, but also a good citizen of the world, because ultimately you're going to have to use your time and your professional gifts for things that you wouldn't normally use it for. There's a run walk that happens in Albuquerque every year for two missing girls. One of them is Pepita Red Hair, and they do a huge run. It's like 25 miles long. And I saw that they did a flyer last year, but I thought if you use a press release, and that's another thing I taught some families to use as a press release. You don't need a reporter to do it for you. You can do it yourself. So not too many people know that. Me as a professional, it is a little bit of my time to write that letter and send it, but it's again a part of being the community and knowing that this family probably is not focused on like, let me make sure all the press have a release from me. They're mainly focused on trying to find their loved one. And if I can relieve them of one task, I'll try. So decolonizing your mindset and realizing that you're having your company is a gift to you, but how are you going to give that gift back to your community?
That's awesome. I think it kind of goes, I really liked what you said, because it is hard being an entrepreneur. You need to focus on your business and yourself and how to make money, but also something that I've noticed a lot with Indigenous business owners is that they're very focused on also how is this benefiting my community. So, like, I think you, Zach, like a lot of the businesses that we're working with are trailblazers in that, kind of coming back to what trade and business was originally supposed to be, which was like for the people, for the community. So I appreciate that you talked about, kind of like how hard it is to kind of balance that sometimes, but you are doing it. And I think kind of um leaning on that, like those thoughts. What are some goals that you have for your business, whether it's like personal goals going forward or community goals? What are some short and long-term goals that you have?
That is an excellent question. My short-term goals, I actually have them written right in front of me. So I want to well, I'll go with my long term. Whatever I end up doing when it comes to the state of New Mexico or Navajo Nation or even federal programs, I love running my own business because there's no red tape. I notice, especially like within Diné Nation, once you become an employee, you're very limited on what you're able to say and do, and you have to work according to the processes that are in place. And that's not just Navajo, that's everywhere. Your voice is very much controlled by your employer. So it would be important to me to try to maintain that independent contractor um, throughout the course of my career because the work that I do I can't keep quiet, I can't keep quiet when there's families who are wanting to look for their loved one, who aren't being listened to. I'm not encouraging bad behavior, but I also don't want to be told you can't be working on a flyer right now. You need to be working on this picnic list. I don't want my priorities to be decentralized. So long-term goals, maintain Bluehorse Realty. I also would like to create wealth through generational wealth through real estate and model that to my clients, but also my community, and then encourage more people on the res to consider, yes, you have reservation land, but how about taking some of their land, and reversing it? Or in some cases, if you have rental properties, that's a tax benefit. And not a lot of people know that you can build generational wealth with just like one rental property and make money in your sleep. So my goal is to, again, make generational wealth and model it. Short-term goals are maintaining my business and looking back every quarter to make sure I'm doing what I need to do. I've broken my business down to daily activities that I need to get done in order to reach my goal of, like 80,000 at the end of the year. And it's all based on activities. And that's what I like about the team that I'm on. Again, they've given me the ability to do that because I wouldn't have even known to break it down to the daily activities. So short-term goals, I'm like doing every day of like, am I making enough calls? And now it's become segmented into my real estate, my West, and my advocacy. On some days, my whole schedule is thrown off. Like tomorrow, I'll be assisting on a search for the Four Corners Canine Search and Rescue, and that sometimes means we don't have service. So I know tomorrow I have no availability for at least 14 hours. Um, so it's I'm very satisfied in my life and it's very busy, but if I didn't look at my schedule to where I'm marking out white space for myself, I probably would burn out. So that's something I think I also want to offer to entrepreneurs is to remember your calendar will fill up whether you're controlling it or not, and to be intentional about putting space for yourself in there. So this week, Saturday is my space, and everybody is going to voicemail that day.
I love that. I think that's an important practice for everyone to do is make sure you carve out that space for yourself and take care of your mental health because I know that's something that um, some entrepreneurs don't talk about is that like mental drain that can come with running your own business. So I'm glad you do that for yourself.
I got to. Honestly, I didn't do that before, and I would intentionally run into like I knew a burnout was coming at least at once every 2 weeks. But I felt like that wasn't sustainable. So I would try to do um, multiple things in a day to try to make sure I didn't burn out, like drink water, get enough sleep, eat, listen to a podcast, laugh.
That's good. That's awesome. That kind of relates to this last question that I'm going to ask, which is if someone's interested in pursuing entrepreneurship or starting their own business, kind of going down the path that you're on, what's some advice that you would give them or words of wisdom?
Find something that you're passionate about, um, or find the problem that you're passionate about in your community, and you can build a business on it. Utilize the nonprofits that are there. I used to be very distrustful of nonprofits, but being part of one now, I realize we're just there to help. Um, Continue to make yourself a priority when it comes to, like you said, your mental health. And then have a goal because you can't just shoot at everything and expect to hit a target that's right in front of you.
Awesome. Is there anything else that you want to share or talk about while we're on here that
Mhm.
maybe you didn't get to voice?
I would just say I would encourage people to research the Four Corners Canine Search and Rescue. I know it's like not entrepreneur type information,
That's
but
okay.
this nonprofit is hardcore. I mean, we only have nine-ish team members that are certified team members, and everybody's volunteer. Nobody gets paid to do it. Bernadine is a full-time employee, but she puts not all of her funding, but she self-funds this nonprofit by herself. We're trying to work toward getting an ATV. The two dogs that we work with that use their nose for live recovery and also cadaver recovery, they're going miles before they reach their search site. So getting the ATV, they're able to kind of hold on to some of their energy until we're actually on site to work. So we did a NBC like interview not too long ago. Just want to encourage your viewers if they could to stop by their site and ask questions. They have social media accounts and hopefully get to see you on my social media accounts. I have a YouTube channel. It's Alyssa Begay Bluehorse. I'm not really on there. I will be, but a lot of my content now is on TikTok, and that's Ms. Alyssa B. A lot of my professional content is on Facebook and Instagram, and you just put in Alyssa Begay Realtor. You'll find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Alyssa. I think you're just a beautiful light in this world and in the space of entrepreneurship. And West is really lucky to have you. And I'm glad we were able to meet through like our work that we're doing here at UNM Rainforest and then what West is doing. So I hope this is not the last of the conversations that we can have
Now, oh,
together.
I saw the email. We're going.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too.